The film starts with our main character, Neha, submerged under the sea. Moments later, she is being rushed to the hospital. Romesh, her husband, hears from the doctor that his wife is suffering from amnesia. He brings her back to their home on an isolated island, which used to be a hotel. Neha is unboxing some stuff when she sees old photos of her and Romesh. She expresses frustration over not feeling the love due to her amnesia. He reminds her about their love story, from how they met accidentally, and how it progressed to their marriage. That night, they share a passionate moment. After that, Neha feels comforted, realizing that her fear has clouded her love for him. The following day, as Romesh is in the city to work, Neha is left alone and starts hearing unusual sounds in the house. She searches where the sounds are coming from and finds a woman who introduces herself as Aisha, her best friend. She tells Neha how they fell apart after Romesh came into her life. She also says that the house is haunted by a spirit who hates her. Aisha also insinuates that Romesh cares more about the house than her, as he will go bankrupt if the hotel is stalled. She reminds Neha that she was about to leave him before her accident happened. One night, she gets awakened by the bedroom door suddenly opening. She gets up to check what's happening when she sees the old elevator moving and gets on it, going down to the basement. There, he sees a huge locked door to the boat garage. Then she spots a calling card from a police officer on the floor. The next day, she steps out to meet the owner of the card, but due to her trauma of the ocean, she can't go past the dock. She goes back to the bedroom where she sees Aisha waiting. She confronts Aisha and asks her to stop interfering with her and Romesh's life. Aisha agrees and walks out, but Neha goes after her, asking her if she knows something. She tells Neha that before the accident, she called Aisha telling her she found a clue about Romesh hiding something from her. She says that only Inspector Devdutt, the one who owns the calling card, can tell her what it is. She calls the inspector to visit the house instead. The inspector says he already expected her to contact him after the accident. He tells her they met before when Devdutt was inspecting the death of Romesh's father, which he suspects wasn't an accident. He thinks that Romesh took his dad's life. Then, another incident happened that made Devdutt suspect Romesh more. Neha and Romesh were having an argument one night, as she sensed that he was keeping a secret from her. Then, Romesh accidentally pushes Neha, and she hits her head on the pool table. Inspector Devdutt was called after the incident, fueling his suspicions. Back in the present, Neha asks Devdutt if there is anything he can tell her to remember the past. Devdutt tells her two things. First is that Romesh is certainly lying to her, and second, Neha is sure that the house was haunted before the accident happened. After their meeting, Neha does her best to try to remember the past. She tries juggling her memory and finding clues within the house. She finds a receipt for a paranormal expert in one of her books. The next day, she decides to go into town, despite her fear of the ocean. She manages to get there and meet up with the paranormal expert in the receipt. She asks him if they ever conducted a paranormal investigation in the house, and the man confirms. She asks if they found out anything, so he shows her a video. In the video, the paranormals are going around the house. Neha shows Tanisha, one of the paranormals, a locket she found in the basement. Tanisha tells her that if the spirit's energy is latched on the locket, the salt water will reduce the spirit's strength by half. As she is about to put the locket in the water, an electrical disturbance occurs, and then the locket moves towards the basement. The spirit possesses Tanisha, and she starts speaking an unrecognized language, and then it attacks Neha. The man tells Neha that after that, the last thing he knows is Neha broke the door to the boat garage, and Neha figures that it must be when she accidentally fell and almost drowned. After the meeting, Neha is determined to find out who the spirit is, and how it's connected to her. One night, while Romesh is asleep, she gets up and sets up a video camera. She goes around the house to see if she will capture the spirit in the video. She starts hearing the spirit moaning, and rushes to the living room where the spirit briefly scares her. Her camera gets thrown under a shelf, and as she reaches for it, she finds a flash drive. She sees the content of it and finds Romesh's recording of himself going around the house. It shows that he was able to confirm that the house is indeed haunted. This is despite him always insisting to Neha that there is no spirit in the house. Romesh finds Neha watching the video and confesses that he is not the reason this house is haunted, but Neha. He tells her that a year after their marriage, Romesh had to fly to India to settle some business. Neha got bored, so she went to the city and met with her friend Shayna. They started meeting frequently, and Neha invited her to the island. One evening, Shayna spiked her drink and made a video of her and Neha doing intimate acts. Romesh tells her that Shayna started blackmailing him and demanded money. He said he thought of talking to Neha about it but didn't want to stress his wife out. One day, Shayna came to blackmail Romesh while Neha was away, and they started having an intense argument. This led to Romesh accidentally pushing her hard. Shayna's was taken that night. He even tells Neha that he locked the boat garage door because that's where he dumped Shayna's body after the incident. Neha is in tears after hearing his story, realizing how deep his husband's love is for her, that he bloodied his hands just to protect her. That night, they reconcile. They decide to go away to rebuild their relationship, like they are going on a second honeymoon. Unbeknownst to them, a woman is keeping an eye on Neha the whole time. One night, Neha receives a text from someone unknown. She meets the person by the pool, and the woman introduces herself as Aisha, her best friend. She couldn't believe it, as this woman was different from the Aisha she had been talking with on the island. Aisha shows her their old photos, and this overwhelms Neha. Aisha concludes that Romesh must have brought the fake Aisha to the island to cover something up. She tells Neha that Romesh knows that she has always been in India, calling him every day and asking about Neha, but he never picks up. Looks like their relationship is crumbling again. She realizes that Romesh must have lied about her in the incident with Shayna, to put the blame on her when he is the one who is hiding something. Their honeymoon ends and Romesh has to go back to work. Neha pretends everything is okay and decides to stay in the city, keeping it secret from Romesh. She and Aisha try to find out what really happened. Aisha takes Neha to a hospital where a man in a coma is known to be a bridge between two worlds. They meet the daughter of the man, who is also a spiritual medium. Neha holds the man's hand, silently conveying her troubles to him. However, the man starts convulsing, and the life support machine starts malfunctioning, flashing Russian words. The daughter tells her it says to find another way underground. Neha takes the hint that she has to find another way to go to the locked boat garage. Neha comes back home and sees Romesh from outside the house. She goes straight to the boat garage but sees that the way doesn't look safe. She takes the risk anyway, descending through the rocks, and she manages to reach the dock. She sees a shoe floating on the water and reaches for it, finding the locket attached to the shoe. Then, a hand suddenly pulls her to the water. There, she sees a corpse tied down to a rock to keep it underneath the water. She sees the scar on the corpse's face and realizes it resembles the scar on the woman pretending to be Aisha. Moments later, she confronts Romesh about her discovery. Romesh finally tells the truth. Before their wedding, he was away on business when she met a woman named Kamaya Tandon, the same woman who pretended to be Aisha. They met at a restaurant that was attacked by a lunatic and started to have a connection. Romesh noticed that Kamaya had a wound on her back, so he offered to treat her back in his hotel room. There, she sees the photo of him and his father. They meet again a second time, and Kamaya makes him experience some thrilling adventure that he hadn't experienced before. He realizes she is a crazy, wild woman. They start meeting more often and being intimate. Kamaya starts being obsessed with Romesh, and he can't resist. After his business trip, he comes home to the island and meets his dad. Surprisingly, his dad introduces his new wife to him, who turns out to be Kamaya. Her obsession is unquenched. Romesh panics. Kamaya tells him that she found him after he found his dad. She even confesses he only married Romesh's dad for his money, but fate made them meet each other. Now she has his dad's money and can always be close to Romesh. Romesh feels trapped as Kamaya keeps him wrapped around her fingers. One night, Romesh decides to tell his dad the truth. Before he could blurt it out, Kamaya hits his dad in the head, taking his life. Romesh swears that he will make sure to send Kamaya to prison, but then she threatens him that the police would surely believe her version of the story more, twisting the truth. She wants to keep Romesh to herself, swearing that no power on earth can separate them. Furious, Romesh pushes her, and she ends up losing her life too. He drags both bodies to the boat, bringing him to his dad's yacht, and setting it on fire, making it appear like an accident. Then, he escapes. However, Kamaya's obsession follows him even after life. Her burnt body follows him back to the dock, and that's when he decides to keep her body underwater. After his confession, he tells Neha that he has sold the house so they could live far away from Kamaya's curse. He gets into the study to show her the papers, but he gets stabbed by the spirit. Neha rushes to get the boat's key so they can escape, but the spirit starts attacking. Kamaya's spirit shows up, and Romesh tells Neha to escape by herself, as Kamaya will never let him go. However, Neha doesn't want to. Neha spots Kamaya's locket on the floor and instructs Romesh to go run for the boat and wait for her there while she deals with Kamaya. She runs for the locket and into the kitchen, where she submerges it in salt water, weakening Kamaya. Then, she lights up the fireplace to burn the locket and exterminate the spirit. However, the spirit manages to move the locket, freeing it from the salt water. Kamaya attacks Neha after being free. Neha sees a rod on the floor and reaches for it, but Kamaya grabs her foot. As she is spun around, she catches the locket with the rod and successfully throws it onto the fire, burning Kamaya's spirit. She runs for the boat where Romesh is waiting, and Kamaya almost catches up to them, but they flee the island successfully. The next scene shows Romesh in therapy. After what happened, he lost the ability to walk, but now finally regains it. Neha stood beside him all throughout. However, after making sure Romesh can finally walk again, she breaks up with him, stating that a relationship is built in love and trust. Loving Romesh has been her habit, however, she no longer trusts him. Then, she finally walks away.